Okay, so what does The Dark Knight, a 1930s war movie, and a 90s television sitcom show all have in common? Congratulations, if you said death, then you would be right. Hello everyone, welcome back to Fraud on the Telly. Join me today as we once again discuss when filmmaking gets deadly. If you haven't already seen part 1 of this video, then please click the I above. For now, let's just jump right into it. Number 1, Hell's Angels, 1930. So the movie making industry, I think for a lot of people, they're surprised about just how deadly and how dangerous it can potentially be. Obviously, this has kind of come more to our forefront and attention now over the last year or two with the events of Mr. Baldwin on the set of Rust. However, people have been dying and getting injured on their quest to make good films, to make big and extra and epic media really since the camera was invented. And I think that people forget just how dangerous that this business, the business of filmmaking and media, can be. A perfect example of this being our first entry, the movie Hell's Angels from 1930, a war movie epic written, produced, and made by Giga millionaire and just overall Giga Chad, Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes was a playboy, philanthropist, businessman, and hobbyist pilot. As well, he was one of the richest people in the entire United States and basically single-handedly funded this movie because, well, he wanted to. So at this time, it was 1930s and World War II was on the horizon. Howard himself was an avid pilot, the man having received his pilot license and really enjoyed flying. So what does he want to do? He wants to make a war epic movie specifically about pilots, German and British pilots and dogfighting in World War I. He wanted this to be an absolute war epic movie, and he wanted these fight scenes, these dogfighting scenes to be the best, the most epic that they could possibly be. As far as motion pictures and media goes, especially for the 1930s, this was a pretty major endeavor. There was a lot of money being pumped in here, and this movie was extremely ambitious. Howard Hughes had hired something over 300 stunt pilots to potentially take place and work in this movie, as they had a ton of planes and there are a ton of dogfighting scenes throughout this movie. It's pretty easy to see where this story is going. We have a ass ton of money and a very big, ambitious project from the 1930s involving dogfighting war planes. I mean, if they were even trying to do this movie now in modern times, I could definitely see how it would be dangerous, especially if they're using live planes and stunt pilots and they're not just CGIing everything. Of course, this was before CGI, so if we wanted to get those epic airplane shots, someone was going to have to go up there and fly them. Unfortunately, though, the production and the making of this movie would come at a cost. A total of 4 people would die in the making of Hell's Angels, 3 pilots and 1 mechanic. Pilot C.K. Phillips was killed in a crash while piloting a British fighter plane on the way to shooting a location. Pilot Al Johnson was also not so lucky. After filming his scene, the pilot tried to land the plane, but while he did, he managed to get caught in some tension wires, the plane crashing where he was severely burned. The man would then die the following day. As well, there was a death of a 3rd pilot, Rupert McAllister, though it doesn't seem like any information, at least nothing that I could find, duly explained what exactly happened to this man and how he died. Finally, there was the death of mechanic Phil Jones, not a pilot himself, but the man unfortunately did die in a plane-related incident. At the time, there was a major plane crash scene that was being filmed, where the pilot would eject themselves and the plane would crash land into the ground. Unfortunately, our mechanic here, Phil Jones, I guess didn't get this memo. For whatever reason, the man did not get out of the way in time when the bomber came crashing down into Earth. It was said that Mr. Jones was operating a smoke generator at the time, the pilot bailing out of the plane as the crash scene was being shot, the plane coming crashing down, and unfortunately crashing in and killing Mr. Jones instantly. The movie would cost Hughes somewhere around $2.8 million to produce and to make, the movie ultimately breaking even at the box office. Now, this movie is remembered as, besides being associated with Howard Hughes, as being one of the first major forays into kind of a big major motion picture, as well, motion war picture, combining new elements of kind of danger and epicness in the stunts that were performed. Overall, years later, this movie is remembered fondly by many film enthusiasts, which makes sense as it is kind of the first foray into kind of a major stunt motion picture. The movie had a massive budget for its time, and while many people remember it for the very tragic and unfortunate deaths that occurred during this film, in many ways this movie kind of set the blueprint for what would become kind of our modern major like action flick. Number 2, Royal Family, 1991. Royal Family was a CBS sitcom series that ran from September 18th, 1991 to May 13th, 1992. The series might be most famous for the fact that Eddie Murphy worked as executive producer on the series, but the show is possibly more well remembered for its short runtime due to the death of lead actor Redd Foxx. Redd Foxx was a comedy actor from the 70s to the 90s, probably most famous for his role in Sanford and Sons as the main father character. Royal Family was kind of supposed to be Redd Foxx's kind of comeback tour, his big comeback hurrah, as had been struggling financially up until that point and hadn't been in, well, I guess less prominent and less successful role since his time in Sanford and Son.
This is Puddin'. When you gonna get married and get a job and move on out the house?
Grandpa, I'm only 4 years old.
You eat like you're 30.
Early ratings for the show were high, leading many people to believe that this was going to be the kind of next big sitcom of the 90s, but tragically on October 11th, 1991, Redd Foxx would die from a heart attack on set. From what I've read, it was a really minor scene. The man didn't even have a line in said scene. He was just going to walk across the stage relatively angrily and then exit like stage left. However, after doing the scene and exiting the stage, Foxx would immediately collapse. Now, what's interesting is that according to different people who worked on the set at the time, no one immediately reacted with any kind of concern. No one thought that anything was actually wrong with Mr. Foxx. This is because on the set of Sanford and Son, Redd Foxx was actually famous for faking heart attacks on set. It was kind of a reoccurring bit that he would do all the time. The man clutching his chest and falling to his knees and acting as though he's having a heart attack, only just to, pull the cast or the people on set, the production crew's leg. Now, the irony here, and really the tragedy here, is that Foxx in this instant was having a major heart attack, and a heart attack that would ultimately result in his death. After not immediately getting up, the production crew rushed to Redd Foxx, where it was reportedly he said, "Get my wife." Immediately, paramedics were called, and Foxx had managed to be resuscitated, where he was taken to Queen of Angels Hospital in Hollywood. Ultimately, though, 4.5 hours after his admission to the hospital, Foxx was declared dead. After his death, CBS would later cancel the series, though the man did have a profound impact on those around him. Eddie Murphy, the creator of Royal Family, has said that Redd Foxx was naturally the most funny person he's ever met. Number 3, X-Files, 2000. The X-Files was an American psychological thriller science fiction drama television show. The series revolving around special agents who investigate the X-Files, marginalized unsolved cases generally involving paranormal phenomena. However, the X-Files, while being one of the most popular TV series possibly ever created, many people are unaware that it actually resulted in the deaths of one of its production crew. On Monday, July 31st, 2000, the crew of X-Files was working on the filming for Season 8, Episode 1 of the series. Unfortunately, the filming of this episode would turn deadly, as one crew member, Jim Ng, would end up dead, along with several others who were severely injured. This tragedy occurred while setting up to film, when a power line touched a set of scaffolding that was set up in the production process, multiple people being on or touching said scaffolding, the electric line charging the scaffolding with 4,800 volts of electricity. Jim Ng, one of the workers on the scaffolding, would die immediately of a cardiac arrest, while the 5 others and one person on the ground, with 6 total, would all be critically injured. Now, to me, these set of deaths and injuries are really frustrating, because this feels like something that very easily could have been avoided. Most of the deaths in this video and the video before feel like they very easily could have been avoided, but this death, along with the injuries involved, really bugged me. I mean, who didn't realize that it was probably a bad idea to set up a massive, giant, metal, mind you, scaffolding system right next to power lines? While an investigation was launched, ultimately no one was held responsible or served any jail time or was charged with anything over the death of Jong Ng. Okay, our final entry, and easily probably the most popular movie piece of media that we're going to be talking about in this video, The Dark Knight. Now, obviously, when we think about death and The Dark Knight, people are instantly drawn to what happened to Heath Ledger. And while as tragic as Heath Ledger's death was, and all of just everything surrounding his death and everything that went on there, this entry is in fact not about Heath Ledger. In fact, this is about another member of the crew of The Dark Knight that died during its filming. Now, we're talking about cameraman Conway Wycliffe. Conway would die in a tragic accident while trying to film one of the major stunts from The Dark Knight. In fact, it was the scene where the Batmobile blows up. Conway's death would occur while filming a kind of test run scene for this big major moment where the Batmobile was supposed to blow up. Conway, along with his driver, are in front of the Batmobile, filming it from the front, driving. Conway is leaning out of the car, no seatbelt attached, camera in hand, filming. Now, immediately this sounds super dangerous, but apparently the vehicle was only going 20 miles per hour at the time. Still extremely dangerous, and obviously still deadly. The camera car driver was supposed to take a very specific route where they would drive straight and then eventually turn right, as there was a coming up on trees where they were supposed to turn right. The driver, though, did not turn right. Hitting the tree, even at 20 miles an hour, Conway, who we remember was not wearing a helmet, was leaning out of the car window and did not have a seatbelt on, was immediately killed on impact. This really kind of fueled a lot of thought at the time that The Dark Knight was a cursed movie. Obviously, you had the death of Heath Ledger, and then you have the death of one of the camera crew, as well as many other problems that were during kind of the recording and the filming of this movie at the time. Apparently, Christian Bale had some major spat with one of his family members during this time. I don't know the exact details, but ultimately all of these events together led a lot of people, mainly the death of Heath Ledger, to believe that The Dark Knight was cursed. While Conway, along with Heath, is honored at the end of the movie as the film is dedicated to their memory, I do think that it is rather sad that more people don't know about the death of Conway Wycliffe during the filming of The Dark Knight. Really, though, this is just par for the course when it comes to Hollywood. Everyone in front of the camera gets all the glory, while all the production crew really just goes rather unseen and a lot of times unthanked. Now, though, I hope that the next time you watch The Dark Knight, you can send a little memory, a little feeling, a little thought and echo out there for the memory of Mr. Conway Wycliffe and his family. And yes, this was part 2 of When Filmmaking Gets Deadly. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, as well as other instances of filmmaking, whether it's movies or TV shows or anything, where people ended up dying on set. Filmmaking in general is risky business. There's a reason that they have stuntmen, but in general, things can just go wrong. Tragedies can happen. The best thing that we can do, people who work in filmmaking, in cinema, is try to be as safe as possible. Ultimately, though, accidents happen, tragedies happen. All we can do is try to put in the measures to try to prevent them from happening as much as possible. As always, guys, if you enjoyed the video, learned something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Click on screen now for more other content. And as always, I hope to see you in the next one. Drink your water, hug your mother. Until next time, peace, love, adieu.
I was 15, born in 1980, said it's 95. Yeah, some of the best albums of all time.